There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that this virtual plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitute a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of debate, apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up any sounds, noise, which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized to speak, please unmute your microphone and connect your video, unless you choose otherwise. But it's preferable that you connect your video as well. Members may make use of the icons on the bar of their screens, whether at the top or at the bottom, depending what gadget you are using, which has an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise points of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the chairperson to members requesting to speak. When using the system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or intersections, as because of the system, it can be disruptive. Let me just get my papers in order here. We shall now proceed to the order, which is the debate on Vote 33, Human Settlement Appropriation Bill. I now recognize Honorable Minister of Human Settlement.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Deputy Speaker, my apologies. Let me acknowledge of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Honorable Semenya, and all members of the Portfolio Committee. Acknowledge the Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, Honorable Pam Chwete, MECs of Human Settlement who have joined us virtually as well, chairpersons and members of boards and council of Human Settlements entities, Director General of the Human Settlements, Mr. Changana, together with DDGs, CEOs of entities, honorable members. Our government derives its approach to human settlements from an injunction contained in the Freedom Charter that says, there shall be houses, security, and comfort. In truth, the demand for sustainable human settlements in our country has been on the increase, and our pace of delivery has been slower than the rate of increase. As I stand here before you today to deliver this budget vote, those who have been waiting for a housing opportunity for what seems forever are hopeful that the plans we are going to announce today are going to respond to their needs. They are also eager to hear how we intend to implement our plans. It is within this context, honorable members, that we have adopted a continuous improvement approach to our work. Accordingly, we have effected changes within the human settlements delivery systems that are aimed at ensuring that we continuously improve the efficiency, quality, and speed of delivery of our products. The processes of stabilizing the human settlement entities is at an advanced stage, with all the boards being appointed, and majority of these entities have completed the processes of appointments of the executives, which we will be making announcements in the coming weeks. To deal with the blockages and the slow pace of delivery, we have established a National Human Settlements War Room with Mr. Dan Kobachev Machitsiso, the former Director General of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, as the convener and the head of this war room. In this work, honorable members, he will be supported by a team of highly specialized individuals who will bring a broad range of much needed skills to the sector. These individuals include Mr. Abongile Kyahiwe, Project and Construction Management Specialist with a master's degree in built environment, Ms. Patience Ntombifikile Ndlovu, a specialist in urban planning with a master's degree in urban and regional planning, Dr. Maphaka Ephraim Tau, who is a governance, strategic leadership and development expert. Many of us would know him as he has been recently just left as head of National Disaster Management Center. Mr. Kwena Mapoto, infrastructure development specialist who is professional technologist in civil engineering. Among other things, the war room team will be expected to do the following. Efforts monitor and fast track the across provinces, coordinate support of various entities and consolidate reporting to the war room, provide project tracking tools on all projects to monitor and to report to the war room, identify strategic partners that could assist to unblock challenges in project implementation, create an enabling environment for cooperative governance in line with Intergovernmental Relations Act. In addition to the technical capacity that we will be bringing and we have brought into the department and entities, we have made some policy changes that are aimed at ensuring we expand the speed and quantity of the quality of delivery. This includes the following. In the current financial year, the revised bands for the finance-linked individual subsidy program, now called Help Me Buy a Home, will come into effect. Meaning this actually has come into effect with the 1st of April because our financial year starts at the 1st of April. Again, as of the 1st of April, the applicable subsidy quantums have been revised from what it existed in 2018 by 20.9% to ensure that we remain consistent with the ability of the department through its implementing agents to continue and improve delivery. Again, the revision of the income bands have been revised, that currently now we are implementing to have those who qualify between 1,850 to 22,000 gross monthly income to qualify for social housing, which also came into effect on the 1st of April. It is almost a month after the coastal parts of KwaZulu-Natal experienced extreme heavy rainfalls, causing severe damages in the eThekwini Ridge Metro and the districts, amongst others, of King, Cetshwayo, Ilembe, Ugu, and Mngungundlovu. I know recently we added Herigwala into the list. More than 15,000 households were damaged. This was split between fully damaged houses and partially destroyed houses. These seasonal floods that are strongly linked to the carbon emission induced in climate change have also damaged houses in the Eastern Cape provinces, most of which were mud houses whose weak structures could not withstand the heavy floods. The areas affected in the Eastern Cape are Alfred, Dinzo, OR Tambo, Jokabi district municipalities. The Northwest and Western Cape provinces were also affected by both floods and fires respectively. Let me take this opportunity to thank Team Human Settlements across the country in the manner that they worked to respond to the disasters. A special tribute to the team that worked in KwaZulu-Natal. I have received an updated report that so far the KwaZulu-Natal team has complied with what has been required by Auditor General and the team that is led by the DG in the presidency in terms of real-time audit prescripts. I continue to urge all the teams not to drop the ball. as this will build confidence in our communities that we are spending their resources correctly, but more importantly, we are accountable. Those who are affected by such disasters require alternative shelter immediately, and those who want to repair the damages to their homes as soon as possible require us to assist them. To make this possible, we introduced a number of new directives applicable to provision of departments and municipalities so that we change the manner of intervention in disaster areas. These directives include 24-hour turnaround period for the assessment of disaster and fast-tracking of repairs through a voucher system. With regards to the financing, provinces and metros are now allowed to utilize available funds from HSDG, USDG, and ISUP to intervene in dealing with the damages, this within our grants. Honorable members, Deputy Speaker, for the financial year 2020-2023, the department's budget allocation amounts to 33 billion, of which 18.7 billion is allocated to provincial grants, 11.7 billion for municipal grants, and 1.6 billion will be transferred to human settlements entities. We will make every effort to ensure that we deploy these resources as efficiently as we can so that we can get more for less, as expected. In this regard, the Human Settlement Development Grant Framework for the 2022-2023 financial year now provides for provinces and municipalities to access up to maximum of 30% of the HSDG for bulk, to fund bulk and link infrastructure services. This will unlock some of the blocked projects in our country, increase opportunities for public-private partnerships, and increase the provision of service assistance for more people who can afford to build for themselves to do so. Most importantly, this will help us to improve expenditure. Furthermore, in the financial year 2022-2023, working together with the National Treasury, we will start implementing the front loading in two provinces, namely Northern Cape and Eastern Cape, as announced by the Minister of Finance, which will allow us to attend to the blocked projects, significantly increase the scale of housing delivery in a short space of time. On the informal settlements, honorable members, the baseline evaluation done by the department confirmed that there are almost 2,700 informal settlements in South Africa. A majority of these settlements are located in unsuitable land that is prone to housing emergencies. I have been engaging many communities in informal settlements. Firstly is to discourage illegal occupation of land and request municipalities to ensure that we don't allow any more illegal occupation of land. This illegal occupation of land denies us an opportunity to plan and implement human settlements programs properly. More is that these are the areas which has been mainly affected by the disasters and leads to the losses of lives that we have seen recently. I will be issuing a direct ministerial directive in accordance with Section 29 of the HDA Act to authorize HDA to drive interventions on upgrading informal settlements and ensure faster turnaround time in provision of basic services to give dignity and comply with human rights needs in our communities. This we do because it has been heartbreaking to see the condition of some of these communities, such as Siakana, informal settlements here in Cape Town. Actually, we have been dealing with almost about 16 informal settlements. Now I'm told there are 19, where basic services that gives human dignity are not provided. The Duncan Village in Buffalo City Municipality, you know, we have got a project there, but when you look at the condition of that informal settlement, it's heartbreaking. Zandspruit in Johannesburg, amongst others. These are just a few that I'm counting, but we have many. And this says to us, we have to drastically improve in this area of work because we will be found wanting in terms of human rights issues. Honorable members, the department has set aside a 3-year period starting from 2022 to 2025 financial year to close off all the blocked projects in the country. The department intends to undertake a scoping exercise that will include site verification and estimation of all cost implications for the unblocking of the projects, and a diagnostic report will be completed by the end of this financial year. I would like to also indicate that part of our work revolves around public-private partnership and our work around the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. Central to the implementation of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan is the stimulation of aggressive infrastructure investment. This requires government to make effort to crowd in private sector investments through mutually beneficial public-private partnership. During 2021-2022, the department published a request for proposal calling on private developers to partner with government in integrated human settlement projects development. The department received 95 proposals, which came from individual companies, consortiums, developers, and communities that own parcels of land. It is encouraging, honorable members, to learn that some of the land parcels were awarded through the land restitution program, which is part of the land reform programs that we are seeing these applications coming through. Pronouncements regarding the first phase will be made after the successful conclusion and signing of these PPPs arrangements. It is anticipated that this will yield opportunities for the medium to low income earners. In this financial year, honorable members, the department will implement its efforts towards affordable housing program in mining communities in partnership with the mining companies. This will say parallel to the mining indaba that is happening in partnership with what we want to see in our communities. To strengthen our partnership with mining companies, we are currently developing a partnership framework between government and mining companies that will guide the joint design and implementation of partnership projects in identified municipalities. This remains a critical area that we would want to see work increasing. The demand for social housing and student housing is overwhelming. Our social housing program has about 140 billion worth of assets. In his fourth State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that for 64 billion of the 700 billion from the Infrastructure Fund will be spent on social housing and student accommodation. SHRAP partnered with the Infrastructure Fund to develop 6 new social housing projects, from transformed delivery agents with an allocation of 305 million over the next 2 years. In an effort to facilitate access to ownership among government employees by utilizing the Help Me Buy a Home subsidy as an instrument, the NHFC has signed a memorandum of understanding with Government Employees Housing Scheme, and the MOU will enable qualifying government employees to access Help Me Buy a Home program, which previously was known as FLISP subsidies. Currently, the total number of employees eligible to receive the monthly allowance is almost 1 million. On the land reform, which is one of the critical programs of this administration, in accordance with the presidential pronouncement on the release of state-owned land for purposes of human settlements, the department on the issue of land redistribution, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure has released 36 parcels of land measuring to 2,493 hectares, and remainder of the land to be transferred will be done in various phases. The released land parcels will promptly be planned and developed to address inter alia rural housing programs, including farm worker housing, affordable housing, land tenure upgrading, as well as informal settlement upgrading. This is done through Public Works giving powers of attorneys to HDA to drive this program together. Honorable members, we have not moved at the pace that was expected of us, and given the ongoing title deeds backlog and associated challenges in this area. So the department here has partnered with Banking Associations of South Africa to fast track the delivery of title deeds to housing beneficiaries who are still without a title deeds. This will be done by utilizing the YES program, which is the Youth Employment Services Program, to try and assist us in doing this. In this way, we are dealing with 1, youth unemployment, 2, fast tracking of a service delivery that we need, but also showcasing the PPP model that works better. Honorable members, the NHFC with the City of Cape Town has appointed 130 SMMEs in construction that have already employed 8,000 people to repair rental accommodation in the city. The NHFC ensures that these SMMEs are paid within 14 days instead of the 30 days allowed by the National Treasury. These builders are appointed to work in the communities where they live, and they hire people from the same community, ensuring that the funds used for the repairs improve the lives of the communities as a whole. The NHFC is finalizing a contract with the Nelson Mandela Bay to appoint SMMEs on a similar basis to construct BNG houses. Ladies and gentlemen, on HDA has developed and deployed a dashboard that tracks the implementation of transformation and empowerment in all HDA programs. The dashboard tracks how much is spent on businesses owned by women, owned by youth, persons with disabilities, and by military veterans as percentage of the annual total procurement. This is part of our work towards ensuring transformation and putting our money where our mouth is. The NHBRC, on the other hand, has reviewed its investment strategy and has included as one of its investment portfolios in the NHBRC's Warranty Fund, a housing development investment fund. The objective of the Housing Development Investment Fund is to invest in projects that facilitate access to affordable housing and finance, therefore, for the low to middle income South African household, most of whom do not qualify for subsidy houses and do not qualify for home loans. This is the category we call the gap market. This proposed solutions is underpinned by the NHBRC's commitment in assisting with funding housing developments. On the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, which came to effect on the 1st of February 2022, replacing the Estate Agency Affairs Board. The PPRA has got an expanded mandate that covers property practitioners in the value chain, which requires extensive stakeholder management. The entity is expected to establish a transformation fund that will be used to empower historically disadvantaged property practitioners. This intervention will cover areas such as training and consumer awareness. Honorable members, the National Development Plan emphasizes the need for government to partner with communities in delivering of services. The People's Housing Process Program talks directly to this notion. This is in line with the government's broad vision, which emphasizes the need to adopt a people-centered approach, service delivery approach. The aim of this approach is to create a more responsive and accountable communities to participate in the development of their own communities. We will be engaging provinces such as Eastern Cape to fully explore this model, especially in the eradication of mud houses.
Minister,
honorable members,
I'm afraid your time has expired.
I believe that through the technical and policy mechanisms we have put in place, the sector will corner and embark on a more progressive trajectory. By bringing together government, private sector, communities, labor to be active participants, we will be able to achieve our goals sooner rather than later. As the Human Settlement Family, Nelson Mandela, in which today we are celebrating
Honorable Minister,
somebody stop the minister.
On the 10th of
somebody stop the minister.
Honorable members, stop talking there. I'm talking.
Of Parliament in February.
Honorable Minister,
when
your time has expired.
Has been
no, I don't need your assistance.
But you are
Honorable Minister,
leaders and a people.
Honorable Minister,
in partnership.
You are being undermined here.
No. Can you just keep quiet, please? I don't need your assistance.
Honorable members, Deputy
Honorable Minister,
I hereby table budget.
Honorable Minister,
from the Human Settlement Department.
Honorable Minister,
with priorities.
Your time has expired.
2023. Thank you.
I think you must increase all our minutes.
Yes.
The next speaker is Honorable Simenya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy Speaker,
please keep your ear sharp so that you hear when I speak. The minister did not hear, and please make sure that your time, and watch your time. The clock is there for you, at least. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker and members of the August House, the Minister and the Deputy Minister of Human Settlement and other Executive Council members who are part of this budget vote. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the ANC lives, the ANC leads. This budget vote bears evidence. The government housing finance scheme is a game changer for the so-called missing middle, who do not earn enough to qualify for the bond, but earn too much to qualify for an RDP house. Our country is still reeling from the devastating effects of the pandemic, the July unrest, the recent floods that ravaged the eastern coast of South Africa. Many of our people have lost their lives and jobs due to these catastrophic events, and they only have our caring government to turn to. The Constitution guarantees everyone a right to have access to adequate housing, and the government must take responsible legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of these rights. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we therefore have no choice with the responsibility on our shoulders. It is this reason that the African National Congress, we support this budget vote for 2022-23 financial year for the Department of Human Settlement and its entities as presented by our esteemed Minister Kubai. We need our communities to get a shelter as soon as yesterday. We therefore urge the Minister and her department to do everything humanly possible to start implementing the budget as tabled. Deputy Speaker and honorable members, human settlement is one of the key pillars of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. It provides opportunity for gender equality and economic inclusion of women and youth. As we speak today, there are many women that have realized their potential through their meaningful participation in human settlement sector as contractors, project managers, consultants, amongst other opportunities. I was once invited to a celebration of women in construction where women were demonstrating their capabilities and achievement in construction. Women settlement sector involves a lot of construction which requires various skills and resources. In this regard, our ANC-led government has prioritized infrastructure development as being central to the economic reconstruction and recovery. Through the infrastructure fund, the ANC-led government would invest an amount of 96 billion in student accommodation, social housing, telecommunication, water and sanitation and transport sector. Honorable Speaker and members, as the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement, appreciate the department and its entities for ensuring that at least 50% catalytic project with a value of 2.6 billion rand will commence during this financial year. The ANC applauds the commitment made by the department and its entity for support the reconstruction and recovery plan through the planned expenditure of 357 million on procurement by companies that are compliant with the BBBEE. Yeah. Honorable Speaker and members, we call for the urgent establishment of the Human Settlement Bank as pronounced by the President in 2019 State of the Nation address. Human Settlement Development Bank will increase the provision of finance across the human settlement value chain, support effective transformation of human settlement sector, enhance integration and coherence of human settlement grants with other sources of funding to create sustainable and meaningful housing finance opportunity. Honorable Speaker and members, this is a realization of one of the ANC's National Conference resolution to ensure that the housing market is accessible to the vast majority working people of our country that do not qualify for Human Settlement Development Program, as it prioritizes those people or households whose total income is not more than 3.5 per month. Honorable Speaker and members, the ANC-led government has introduced the finance-linked individual subsidy program, which now called the Help Me Buy a House program, to assist all those households whose total income is more than 3.5 but less than 22,000. As the ANC in the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement, we are going to ensure that the department and its entities achieve their target in relation to this housing subsidy program. For this financial year, the department has target of 4,780 subsidy application to be approved. We therefore call for the acceleration of this application process for housing finance. Honorable Deputy Speaker and members, we are concerned that for the previous financial year, the department has not been able to achieve more than 60% of its target on housing subsidized application. For instance, in the last 8 years, the total target was 37731, but the department managed to approve only 16,003. We therefore recommend that department must every quarter on the report on the progress of the approving of these subsidies. We further encourage the department and its entities to conduct awareness campaign targeting all those workplaces of people that are the target market. It should be the responsibility of the department to promote housing finance scheme for middle and low income earners. Honorable Deputy Speaker and members, we are resolute in support of this budget vote for the Department of Human Settlement and its entity. Our support for the budget vote is based on its commitment of ensuring that our people have access to social housing. In this financial year, the Social Housing Regulatory Authority has committed to build at least 3,000 social housing units, which will affordable to the low-income earners. Furthermore, SHRA will ensure that 3535329 of social housing units are occupied by tenants. Our people are not only going to benefit by accessing affordable social and rental housing from the state. The department and SHRA have committed that 70% of consolidated capital grants will be awarded to Black majority-owned enterprises, with 40% of construction spend going to enterprises that are majority owned by women, and another 20% of construction for youth and 5% for people with disabilities. And the other important factor is that these will contribute 6,646 job opportunities on this program, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, we are committed to hold the department accountable for this budget, and we shall support the Department of Human Settlement and its entities when necessary as the Portfolio Committee. Our mission is clear. We want to improve the lives of our people for the better. Tomorrow shall never be the same as yesterday. I want to thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker and members.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Let's go to Honorable.
My minutes can be given to other members.
No negotiations on the platform. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Let's go to Honorable Kumalo.
Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
It's Honorable Joe Madlua. I rise to inform you that it is Honorable Kumalo's maiden speech, and I would like to request that it should be recorded as such.
You mean that this is her first speech in Parliament? That's okay. We'll accept it as such, not as a maiden speech. We don't want you to use that anymore. But thank you very much for notifying us. Welcome, Honorable Kumalo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, honorable members, members of the media, and to everyone present, I greet you all. Deputy Speaker, the Human Settlement Mandate is a very important one that ensures that human rights are not trampled on. The mandate has been guided by various policies that have received much attention over the years, yet have not received enough action to fully realize it across the length and breadth of South Africa. The Constitution guarantees a fundamental right to progressive access to housing, and the state is compelled to take measures to honor this right. In addition, the Housing Act provides for the facilitation of sustainable housing development processes while recognizing that housing as adequate shelter fulfills a basic human need. Central to the realization of the housing rights is the participation of communities, which is the key to the success of the implementation of the housing delivery agenda in South Africa. Sadly, the department is notorious for rampant corruption at the cost of the dignity that should be given to millions of South Africans. Corruption and housing waiting lists is a serious problem that has gone unaddressed for decades. The poor management of corruption associated with the housing list is indeed a hard bone to chew, as many have no idea what number they are on the list, nor that people have been pushed up the list for a sum of money which most cannot afford, yet the robbery continues. People are sick of being sick and tired, year in and year out. The people deserve better. South Africa deserves better. Even when recipients finally do receive their houses, it is found that some still wait up to 50 years for a title deed, and we ask, where is the people's dignity? Houses for homies, the sale of state houses to fill the cookie jar, and collusion amongst those entrusted with the responsibility of seeing to the millions of South Africans who need houses. All that are just a reflection of none other than the ruling party, the ANC. We also continue to see government officials in various departments occupying houses meant for those who cannot afford to purchase or build their own houses, and giving out large contracts to benefit the corrupt over and over again. Talk, paper, and promises are ultimately all that the citizens get. Consequently, Deputy Speaker, the failure of the state to provide quality housing has caused many protests around the country, because while budgets are being submitted and approved, in the background, deals are being set for housing projects that will make use of some of the cheapest building materials, so much so that many brand new houses that are handed to our people are given to them with defects such as leaking roofs, missing windows, doors that don't close.
Deputy Speaker,
eminently the time to think and frankly and
yes, what's the point of order?
As you said,
just hold on.
As you said, Member Papo, as you said that this is the first speech, will this person who's presenting it agree that being a first speech and depending on its content, people have a right to heckle her?
No, Honorable Pope, don't do that, please. No, that's not a point of order. Let her proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This is preeminently the time to think and speak honestly, frankly, and boldly about the conditions of our people are subjected to as a result of the corruption and poor performance of this department. There is simply no need to shrink from honestly facing these conditions. It's time to ask, where is the pride in the minister and her department when a 60-year-old woman has to wait 10 years to get a house? When monies are budgeted and paid only to give birth to unfinished housing projects as a result of corruption at the cost of many lives, where is the dignity? Unsafe and poor quality houses that threaten lives and livelihoods are given to our people, and we ask, where is the dignity? The level of incompetence and lack of urgency displayed by some individuals who are entrusted with the critical task of providing shelter to South Africans, but simply occupy positions as a result of political alignment. Where is the dignity? And yes, it is important to have budgets that speak to the needs of our people, but that itself is not enough. It's not enough at this stage to be complacent. It's not enough to just allocate funds in the form of grants and not have effective governance models over them. It is not enough for this department to simply continue with poor performance. Over and above the corruption, maladministration, poor governance controls, and the disregard of the Department for the People of South Africa, you look at the 2020-2021 annual reports. In fact, annual reports before that too, one can easily explain the lived experiences of millions of South Africans who still await for a government that cares. But the reality is that numbers don't lie. The underspending on crucial programs in this department is a slap in the faces of those who have been looking for a better life. Underspending on the integral human settlement planning and development and the informal settlement program, which is really indeed a shame. Programs around affordable housing and rental social housing as well. So it is not about the principle of Batubili, because even that is a slap in the faces of many South Africans who have waited and waited on this department. In reality, the principle this department operates under should be Rona Pili, not forgetting that despite millions of qualified and well-skilled South Africans without work today, the department and its entities still struggle to fill strategic and critical vacant positions, a slap in the faces of the many that can easily get the job done. But the reality is that this department doesn't care, and that the corrupt high rollers of this department continue to roll high while many South Africans remain with false hope. It's again a definite case of Rona Pili. We need to see housing projects being monitored and evaluated correctly and efficiently with meaning, and not just to tick boxes. We need to see communities where housing projects are being carried out being a part of those projects, and do away with busing in people from neighboring towns to do the work. Our people can be empowered to be a part of these projects. We need to see this never-ending corruption come to an end. The only way this will happen is to ensure that there is accountability and strong consequence management that leaves no room for corruption. We need to see the Department of Human Settlements become a tool to alleviate and lower the spiraling poverty levels in our country. We need to see transparency. We need to see a consolidated housing list across all levels of government, and we need to see the lists are correlated. This has been spoken about indeed. This has been written about, but it doesn't exist. And it's currently talk that this will be done in the next 6 months. And so we all hold our breath to see if there is a government that cares about equal opportunities and fairness. We need to see the different segments of the department operating as a unit. We need to see the lives of South Africans start to matter. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable, the EFF hasn't given us the name. Who's speaking for the EFF?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's Member Tafeni Noluvuyo.
Okay, go ahead.
Deputy Speaker. Okay, Deputy Speaker, firstly, we would like to send our deepest condolence to the family, friends, and comrades of Nokuthula Mambaso, a leader of Abahlali Basemjondolo movement who was assassinated in a Kenana informal settlement in Katomano, eThekwini last week. The death of Nokuthula follows that of Ayanda, another leader of the same movement of people staying in informal settlements. The assassination of these leaders of the homeless who are fighting to affirm the right of all to a home is a serious indication of just how far the ruling elite are prepared to go in order to eliminate all voices of those people, or those speakers speaking on behalf of the poor. In their honor, we demand that the government must stop harassing people living in informal settlement. The eviction and destruction of people's home must stop. This state-sponsored hatred on poor people staying in informal settlement must be stopped forthwith. It is not a crime to be poor. Being poor must not be a death sentence in this country. We also take this opportunity to reiterate our support for the thousands of people who were left homeless by the flood that took place in KwaZulu-Natal and in the Eastern Cape. We condemn the slow to non-existent pace of rebuilding people's home in these two provinces, a demonstration of this government's complete disregard for the well-being of our people even during times of natural disaster. The EFF rejects budget vote 33. We do so because it is a gross underestimation of the amount of money needed to ensure that the country stands a reasonable chance of fighting against homelessness. Even though there is a 1 billion rands increase in the budget compared to the 2022 to 2021 to 2022 budget, this increase is a drop in the ocean when seen in the context of the challenges faced by the homeless in this country. In the Western Cape alone, there are almost 400,000 people who are on the housing waiting list. Many of those people have resorted to build informal houses to themselves, even in areas not suitable for human habitation. They do this because they are disparate and have nowhere else to go. We are here as the EFF to speak on behalf of the excluded millions of those who has been on the housing waiting list all their lives with no hope of ever on winning a home of their own. We speak on behalf of the over 1 million farm workers and farm dwellers who have been evicted from farms they called homes between 1994 and today. We speak on behalf of the residents of Airport City in East London, whose houses were demolished by the government of that province on the basis that they were built on land that belong to the government. If government fails to build homes for people, why are they criminalizing those who build homes for themselves? With the proven incapacity of the state to fulfill these basic human rights to a home, is it not advisable, therefore, to free available land and ensure that those who can build houses for themselves are allowed to do so? The delivery of homes to the poor is not the only problem faced in this department. You have also made it extremely difficult for emerging black contractors to enter the space and get contract from government to build houses. The construction space is dominated by the establishment, while owned companies such as Power Construction monopolizing almost all construction projects in the country. It is for this reason that we call for the establishment of a state construction company so as to dramatically reduce the cost of building houses for our people and stop the unfair enrichment of white-owned companies at our people's expenses. We also want legislative reform in the financing of housing in this country. The vast majority of black people will access to jobs are unable to service their home loans because of the rising interest rates. It makes no sense that people who buy houses are made to pay more than double the selling price for a period up to 30 years, half of which who are for paying interest. As the EFF, we reject the budget vote 33. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable S.A. Buthelezi, it's your turn.
Excuse me. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My connection is unstable, so with your permission, I will not activate the camera. Shelter is a basic human need necessary for survival. Our Constitution, in Section 26 of the Bill of Rights, states that everyone has the right to have access to adequate housing, and further, that the state take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve the progressive realization of this right. This task, providing access to adequate housing for those in need, has proved challenging to the government of the day. According to the NGO, the Development Action Group, the national housing backlog sits at an estimated 2.6 million houses. That is 12 million people in desperate need of decent accommodation. Therefore, the importance of the work of the Department of Human Settlements and the prudent use of the budget allocated to its work cannot be overstated. As we gather today, this budget is under additional pressures, not only due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also more recently, the devastating floods which left thousands of people in KwaZulu-Natal without any form of shelter. The lofty and necessary ideals dictated by the National Development Plan that by 2030, measurable progress towards breaking apartheid spatial patterns would have been made, as well as the issue of transformation in the housing sector, face almost insurmountable setbacks as we are forced to look at diverting funds to provide emergency relief to communities in need. As the IFP, we therefore welcome the overall budget allocation, which increased by 1.34 billion rands from 31.67 billion rands in 2021-2022 to 33.2 billion rands in 2022-2023. However, the department's revised 5-year MTSF targets must be noted. 300,000 breaking new ground houses delivered, 20,000 households that received financial assistance and purchased units through the finance-linked individual subsidy program. Additionally, 300,000 service sites delivered, 18,000 rental housing units delivered in priority development areas, and 5,000 community residential areas units delivered. Considering the sheer scale of the task at hand, we must pose the question, are the MTSF targets ambitious enough? As the IFP, we therefore echo the concern and recommendation of the committee with regards to blocked projects. With so many people in need of housing, it is unacceptable that projects have been blocked. Also, the committee has asked for budgets and time frames. We would further like to suggest detailed feedback be provided on such projects. Surely there was budget allocated already to these projects. If so, there must be no duplication and no room for mismanagement of these funds. The issue of the housing beneficiary list is further of the utmost importance. The slow pace of digitization of these lists is unacceptable and leaves this process open to manipulation on the part of unscrupulous individuals. As the IFP, we are further in full agreement with the committee that the beneficiary list or the allocation policy should prioritize child-headed households, the elderly, and people with disabilities. We further wish to make mention of the importance of cooperation between the three spheres of government, national, provincial, and municipal, needed to achieve results and provide our people with decent housing. This is not the time to play politics. The people must come first. As the IFP, where we govern, we are committed to the principle of servant leadership and good governance free of corruption. As long as provincial and national government show a visible commitment to the same and to avoiding irregular as well as fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we are willing to work together to ensure decent housing for all. The IFP supports the budget vote. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Let's hear Honorable P. May.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. 'n verslag is 'n geskrewe dokument. Alles klink goed, maar wat gebeur werklik in die praktyk? En dit is die probleem in Suid-Afrika. 2 jaar gelede het die Vryheidsfront Plus die minister van Behuising versoek om 'n opname te maak oor beskikbare munisipale en staatsgrond om die metro's wat aangewend kan word vir die ontwikkeling van behuisingsprojekte. Die grond moes ontkoppel word van staatsgrond na residensiële eiendom. 3 maande later kondig die minister aan dat 14,000 hektaar grond beskikbaar is om die metro's. Dit is 'n groot stuk grond en is 'n baie positiewe boodskap wat ons gekry het. Dit gee die staat die geleentheid om vooruit te beplan en te verhoed dat grond onwettig beset word. Beplanning het nog steeds agterweë gebly en onwettige besettings het toegeneem. Die plakkers beset dikwels grond wat nie geskik is vir ontwikkeling en dienslewering nie. Of in sekere gevalle is die kostes vir munisipale dienste geweldig hoog. Die onwettige plakkers betoog dan vir munisipale dienste en ekonomiese verliese word gelei. Deurdat paaie beskadig word, deur brandende bande en die publiek nie hulle werksplekke kan besoek nie. Goeie verhoudings word ook so tussen die verskillende groepe benadeel. Agterstand in die boubedryf neem jaar na jaar toe. Die verslag maak dit duidelik dat een van die grootste probleme is dat mense se skuldlas in Suid-Afrika groter en groter word. En sodoende kan hulle nie verbande by finansiële instellings aangaan. Dan 'n ander probleem is die invloed van mense uit Afrika. Ons almal weet, dit is duisende mense wat jaarliks Suid-Afrika betree. Nou wil ek vir u net sê dat die feit dat finansiële instellings nie mense kan help nie, gaan die las al hoe groter en groter op die staat plaas. Maar wat nou ook gebeur, is dat mense gaan om huise te huur. Maar ons beleef dit elke dag in Suid-Afrika, dat huurkoste so hoog word, dat mense uiteindelik maar op straat beland. Werkers uit gemeenskappe word dikwels gebruik om die projekte, by die projekte te werk. En dit is 'n baie groot probleem, want vakmanskap ontbreek. Ons sien ook dikwels dat alternatiewe kontrakteurs aangestel word, omdat die vorige kontrakteur nie die projek kon voltooi nie. Projekte word ook in sekere gevalle gestaak of vertraag, om die rede swart ekonomiese bemagtiging verkies word bo goeie dienslewering. Ek wil net vir 'n praktiese voorbeeld noem. In Misgind in die Oos-Kaap is 300, ja meer dan 300 huise gebou. Hulle is afgebreek tot en met die fondamente, hulle moes oorgebou word. Soveel ander kon voorsien word van huise. Dan, ons het nou onlangs gelees in Vrede, waar 'n maatskappy 'n projek van 150 miljoen gekry het. Ons weet almal ook dat die geskorste sekretaris-generaal, meneer Ysmakashule se dogter daarbey betrokke is. Daar is die projek nie voltooi nie, en die huise van 'n baie swak gehalte. Belastingbetalers kan eenvoudig nie so van miljarde rande beroof word nie. Maar u weet, ek was 35 jaar in die boubedryf. Om korrupsie in die boubedryf te verhoed is baie eenvoudig. Om die vordering van die bouprojek te monitor is 'n eenvoudige taak, omrede die kostebepaling op verskeie vlakke van die bouprojek bepaal word. En so kan korrupsie dan verhoed word. Maar nou vra mens jouself die vraag, hoe is dit dan moontlik? Ek is jammer om te sê, ons almal is moeg vir die woord van korrupsie in Suid-Afrika. Die enigste manier is, as jy korrup is van bo tot onder. Ek wil nog iets noem wat in die verslag gemeld word, titelaktes. 'n Titelakte is 'n waardevolle sertifikaat vir enige huiseienaar. Dit gee hom die geleentheid om by finansiële instellings te gaan aansoek doen vir verdere verbande. So word huise verbeter. Ek ry dikwels deur die Kwanebusle gebied in Uitenhage op pad na die N2. En dan verwonder ek my oor hoe die huise verbeter word. Ek hou baie keer by die mense stil, dan vra ek vir hulle, hoe is dit moontlik dat julle dit kan doen? Dan sê hulle vir my, ons het reggekom by 'n finansiële instelling. Ek wil afsluit. Bekostigbare behuising in Suid-Afrika. Ons moet nie laat dit agterweë bly nie. Hoekom sê ek dit, voorsitter? Want dit is so belangrik dat mense nader aan hulle werksgeleenthede gevestig word. Ek kan maar weer 'n voorbeeld noem. Die woonstelblokke, en dit is nie 10 verdiepings, is 2-3 verdiepings wat gebou word deesdae, is so goed geleë dat mense werklik nie 'n probleem het om by hulle werk uit te kom nie. Okay. Ons sal nie weer met baie dankie.
Thank you. Honorable K.R. James.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. An NGO called Asivigalani that helps the voices of South Africa's informal settlements to be heard estimates that more than 5 million South Africans live in informal settlements. Our housing backlog is estimated to be about 3.7 million and increases by about 178,000 every year. And we are yet to know where the beneficiaries are on the list. The ACDP that believes in the principle of transparency would like to see a consolidated, digitalized list that will always be in the public eye to counter corruption. The Department of Human Settlement has many performance challenges. According to the minutes of the DHS committee meeting in November last year, major concerns related to poor performance with upgrading of informal settlements, and residents of informal settlements face considerable flood and fire risks. Most have to walk long distances to taps or rivers to fetch water in buckets, and firefighters struggle to put out the flames when confronted by unmanned shacks and winding paths without guides to help them. Finding the sources of fires can be impossible. It has been reported that between January and September 2021 in Cape Town alone, for as an example, there were almost 1,200 shack fires with about 80 victims dying before the end of June. Honorable members, the appalling loss of life and property in the recent KZN floods could also have been reduced had the DHS done more to upgrade informal settlements in that province. According to Darren Green, the African head of international infrastructure consulting firm AECOM, much could have been done to lessen the recent flood damage. The evidence for this is that areas that were properly planned and had well-maintained indigenous vegetation suffered a great deal less than those uncontrolled development. Some informal settlements even prevent service delivery, Speaker, because in places such as Siatlala in Langa, you have shacks that have been built near railway lines, thus preventing trains from operating. Unbelievably, this Siatlala's informal settlement began on land belonging to Prasa in 2016, yet only in January 2021 did Prasa start talking to the residents of that informal settlement about relocating. Registration of title deeds is another major concern with respect to the Human Settlement Department. Homeowners with title deeds always feel encouraged to even improve their assets. They can start businesses using their properties as collateral or even grow intergenerational wealth by leaving land and houses to their children. It has been reported on the 10th of November 2021 that
unfortunately, okay, Dad. Let's give to the Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, Mepem Twed.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Minister Kupai, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Smenya, distinguished guests, Chairpersons and CEOs of our entities, Chairperson of the War Room, DGs, DDGs, and senior government officials, ladies and gentlemen, viewers online. I greet you all this afternoon. Chairperson, today marks exactly 28 years to the day that our first democratic president, Deputy
Speaker.
Mr. Nelson Mandela was inaugurated. We are again reminded of how far we've come as a country and how much has been achieved to change the life of the people.
Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Twete, please, Honorable Twete.
Honorable members.
Honorable Twete.
Whilst COVID-19.
Honorable Twete, just a moment, there's someone wanting to speak. What are you raising on, Honorable Member?
I'm sorry, Deputy Speaker, but it's not, the Deputy Minister is not audible.
Can people with technology sort it out, please, so that every member can hear? You sure it's not you there?
No, I can't even hear myself, Deputy Speaker.
Okay. They are attending to it, yeah. All right. Okay. Try and speak, raise your voice a little bit as well.
Honorable members, while the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exist in our country and the world at large, our sector is still feeling the effects through continuous shortages of material supply. These shortages have resulted in price hikes and dictated by principle of supply and demand. In August last year, we welcomed the vibrant, energetic, and highly action-oriented Minister Mameluko Kubai to the department. The minister came with vast experience, and she is coming from 5 portfolios, namely communications, energy, science and technology, tourism, as acting Minister of Health. We're already encouraged by what we have achieved during this short space of time. The empowerment of women and youth is one of the department's critical areas. The country continues to battle high level of unemployment and patriarchal systems. The set-asides for women and youth and persons living with disabilities is a way of ensuring that these groups are not left behind. I must say that we have been making some positive strides as the department in ensuring that the provinces and our entities take this seriously. We have done so by ensuring that the 2022-2023 APP and budget plans have clear, measurable targets. As I said last year, NHBRC, through its partnership with Gordon Institute of Business Science, enrolled and trained 120 women entrepreneurs. 107 completed the business development planning assessment in March 22 and are currently undergoing mentorship program through GIPS. These women have also had networking sessions with our provincial departments, the National Housing Finance Corporation and the Housing Development Agency, where presentations were done on construction related projects, opportunities, and how to access funding. Our country has a high number of destitute communities due to social ills. The department is inundated with requests to intervene in a number of destitute cases. We have urged the provinces to work closely with municipalities and come up with a consolidated list per province. This will assist in ensuring that we have a holistic approach in prioritizing the cases. We have started the process of roadshow in a province, working with MECs, and all provinces have done it, and together with executive mayors. The main focus of our roadshows is to unlock challenges that hinder acceleration of housing services delivery for destitute. Going forward, we will be accelerating this program to all provinces. I'm proud to announce that using this approach, a number of houses have been delivered across the country. Ours as department is to ensure that no destitute is without a decent home. We have an obligation to protect the most vulnerable of our society and make sure they have a decent place they call home. Yesterday, while we were engaging with community of Khayelitsha, myself and the minister, we found an impression that everyone is expecting to receive a free house from government. We want to make it clear that provision of BNG houses is for indigent and elderly, child-headed households, military veteran, and people living with disabilities. Housing of military veterans remains one of our key focus areas. We are committed to endeavor until we have provided security tenure to all bona fide military veterans. The illegal occupants, delay service delivery, legit beneficiaries, ukuthathwa komhlaba ngendlela engalunganga ilibazisa i-delivery department. Kuba xa kufuneka sibasusile kwindawo erongo abahleli kuyo, kufuneka kubhekwe emakhoti, siyacela ukuba siyalibaziseka ukudelivera izindlu ngenxa yabantu aba-occupy umhlaba rongo. Going forward, I would like to encourage collaboration with the Department of Social Development so that at the time of the handover, we don't just give them a house, but we take care of their basic needs. It doesn't help us. We need to work together with social development. Whenever we hand over the house, there's food in the house. Our country has been experienced flood and fire disasters. Some of these can be attributed to climate change. As a country, we need to embark on awareness campaigns with hope of limiting impacts of displacement, of loss of life. Abanye abantu bakha phezu kwemilambo bakhe kwindawo ezinamanzi bexelelwe sanukwakha apha siyabacela ke ukuba mabancede bamamele xa bexelelwe. The department has funding available to address these disasters. We urge ngakumbi omasipala bakhawulezise ukuqokelela abantu abamkelwe zizindlu so that sikwazi ukubanika imali yokuba bakhela abantu izindlu. Ugovernment akakwazi uvele ukwakha indlu engakhange anikwe number of people affected, number of houses affected. Those applications must come to national so that we are able to give them money. So when there are delays from provinces, it is actually delaying the whole process. I then want to say in the the HNBRC, through its partnership with the Gordon Institute of Business Science, and unditshilo kulonyaka kupheleyo uba sibancedile amakhosikazi and sayenza into bamakhosikazi sifuna amakhosikazi aphathe bethuna akhe izindlu mabanganikwa nje bankinkishelwe. President has given out what 40% must be given to women, and why is it not happening from provinces? Yesterday kwakhona ngokubesipha eKhayelitsha no minister bekukho abantwana abancinci abaze kuthi abathi sicela ukwakhela izindlu. Ndibaxelele Deputy Speaker that education unika iNSFAS ukwenzela abantu babheke esikolweni. Asikwazi ukwakhela abantwana abana 14 years batoyitoyela izindlu. Mna ndiphuma endlini ngosike nditshate ekhaya. So bona abantu bathi bena 18 years bafune sibakhele izindlu. Hayi izinkosi ayizukwenzeka. Siyacela into abantu babheke esikolweni bafunde bazokwakha izindlu zamabhongo abo befundile. And xa ndiza kugqibezela Chair ungeka ndihlalise phansi, I would like to encourage collaboration with the Department of Social Development. Nditshilo ke ndathi ndiyithethile lento yoba i-department masibone social development apha kwezi ndawo sibonakale sisebenza sonke bethuna. Constructions enye into emandigxinise kukwakhiwa kwezindlu erongo ngabantu abanikweyo imali bama sine quantum enough for people to build decent houses. There is no need for contractors to build cheap houses because izabuyela kuthi bantu baphetheyo singurhulumente we-African National Congress kanti ICT sinika abantu imali bakhe izindlu abantu benza into zomqala wabo. So in the year under the review, we have established platform which includes the national and provincial platform and the NHBRC to address issues related to enrollment. In enrollment, we are now very fast in enrolling and making sure that we enroll houses. As a finish delays, we only take 15 days to do that. With this regards, the participants of South Africa and the United Nations, I must tell you this, Minister, that you requested me to represent South Africa in United Nations General Assembly. I couldn't believe myself when I was standing in the podium of the United Nations. I said, this is Minister Kupai who sent me here, and I'm retiring this year. I have a history. Other ministers never been on that platform. And I'm the first deputy minister been on that platform. Minister Kupai.
Deputy Minister, on that note, your time has expired.
Took place on the 20th.
Asiva esesuphelele isikhathi Madam Deputy Speaker, Deputy Minister.
You are representing amakhosikazi e-United.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kwankwa. Ingathagekho. ATM. Ayikho. Honorable Brad Heron.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, we support the budget vote, but we call on the Minister of Human Settlements to reimagine the country's housing program. We note the commitment in the annual performance plan executive summary to a new human settlement code, but note too the absence of any indicators to hold the commitment to account. We can celebrate the fact that South Africa has rolled out one of the largest public housing programs in the world, but we must learn from our experience, and that is that a free house is not necessarily an affordable house. We have dismally failed to break down the Group Areas Act and to effect spatial justice. Instead, we have built suburbs of poverty on the outskirts of our towns and cities, entrenching the apartheid model instead of resculpting it. We have created what is called the 40 by 40 by 40 crisis. 40 square meter houses built 40 kilometers away from jobs and services and costing people 40% of their income in transport costs. At the same time, we have dismally undercalculated the impacts of urbanization, immigration, the loss of jobs, and lack of security of tenure. The outskirts of our cities and towns now virtually comprise only of new townships for the fortunate and sprawling shacklands. With nearly 3 decades of experience, we have to admit that in its current form, our housing code does not meet our Section 26 constitutional obligations to provide access to adequate housing. It is not sustainable. We do not have a sustainable housing program. We're not creating sustainable communities, and we're not creating sustainable towns and cities. Deputy Speaker, where people live matters. If we plow ahead on this road, we are going to lock in a socio-economic catastrophe from which it will take decades to recover. The current housing code is a blunt instrument that assumes we have economic equality across the country and a uniform property market. We have to address affordability within local contexts. Cities and towns have different economies, different income levels, and different property markets. Using a blunt qualifying instrument and a standard income threshold relegates low earners in cities with bigger economies, higher levels of income, and unaffordable property markets to a life of exclusion from their Section 26 rights. Their household income may be higher than a family in a rural or smaller town, but relative to the local context, they may actually be poorer in real terms. It's time we looked at the true extent of inadequate or unaffordable housing, which is much larger than our current model assumes. The new housing code must address the true meaning of affordability in the local context, including the future of informal settlements. We must provide real security of tenure with a right to build and introduce a meaningful informal settlements upgrade program. And given our private housing markets, we must expand the role of the private sector by codifying inclusionary housing in return for additional development rights. This we can achieve through an amendment to SPLUMA. Access to housing is in crisis, and the same old approaches just aren't going to fix it. We need courage to discard that which isn't working and reimagine a new landscape of equity and justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me give to Honorable Imam Sheikh. In the meantime, Honorable Lisoma, please take over after Honorable Imam when he finishes, or advise him to finish when his time has expired. I now hand over to him. You can charm him into stepping over out of the seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The National Freedom Party will support Budget Vote 33 on human settlements tabled here today. Deputy Speaker, I want to refer to a Mr. Rajesh Singh from Durban, who applied for a council flat through the Department of Human Settlements and the eThekwini municipality in 1989. 33 years later, this man is still waiting. Now, I think what we need to understand, Deputy Speaker, the country's population is increasing at about 1 million a year. Secondly, and very importantly, even if you build houses in rural areas, as a result of lack of development and job opportunities in rural areas, people migrate to the urban areas, creating an additional demand for housing. In other words, some family members would have got a house in the rural area, but they're going to move to the urban area because they don't have job opportunities. In other words, instead of one house, you might have to provide two houses. The next thing is this, the question we must always ask. Are we meeting the demand? We're not, and we cannot. So what is the next best thing to do? Instead of building these RDP houses, and we've raised this again and again before, should we not be concentrating on providing fully serviced sites with water, sanitation, and electricity, and then providing householders with a loan at a low interest rate? In other words, we said we'll create the Human Settlement Development Bank or private investment so that more and more people can build their own homes. And I'm quite certain many people, even pensioners, will be willing to pay $300 a month to have a decent home rather than a house, which is what we've been building for a long period of time. Now, added to this, Deputy Speaker, is another problem. We build a lot of RDP houses, and yes, indeed, many houses have been built over the last 28 years and more. There is no
Honorable Sheikh Imam, it seems like we've got a connectivity challenge. Honorable Sheikh Imam. May the IT support assist him if it's possible. IT. Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Honorable members, we shall move now on, recognize Honorable Tseki.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me start by greetings to all members and the Minister and the Department. In my greetings, also appreciate what Member Heron have said, which I think in the committee, those are some of the issues and challenges that with his wisdom, we can engage on them. Unlike Member May, who we find ourselves in these challenges because of the system that he belonged to and supported for many years, which is the apartheid system. Honorable Chairperson, as the African National Congress, we support the budget vote for 2022-23 financial year as presented. We are convinced that this budget, if implemented, in totality, will go a long way in achieving the aspiration espoused in the Freedom Charter of ensuring that the provision of housing security and comfort for all people. The National Development Plan 2030 directs our ANC government to radically transform the spatial apartheid planning to ensure that working people of our country live in close proximity to their work, have access to recreational and other essential services, other essential social amenities at their doorstep. That's what we define human settlement, not housing. The revised medium-term strategic framework 2019-2024 has identified 3 interrelated outcomes for this term of office. The revised MTSF has committed the department to the spatial transformation through multi-program integration in priority development areas, adequate housing and improved quality living environments, security of tenure. Honorable Chairperson, to achieve the above objectives, the department will rely heavily on the work done by the state-owned entities. The bulk of department's budget is transferred to these entities. Therefore, the state-owned entities have an important role in provision of housing delivery. That is why we must ensure that we rebuild and strengthen the housing entities to deliver on the departmental mandate. The housing entities will be like HDA. Accelerate the transformation of the property market industry for inclusive cities and integrated cities. Honorable Chairperson, we must ensure that as we embark on the economic recovery and reconstruction of our society, we must also transform the current property market relations, which is still dominated by few white males, at the exclusion of the African majority. To address the skewed nature of the property market, the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority will this financial year embark on the establishment of a property sector transformation fund, ensure that 300 full status Black women supported through the implementation of principalization program, and that 25 SMEs owned by historically disadvantaged groups are placed through the incubation program, not white males. Honorable Chairperson, the delegates of the 1955 Congress of the People, where the Freedom Charter was adopted, made a pledge that in a democratic South Africa, unused housing spaces, land will be made available to the people, will be made available to government to build their own houses, to people to meet their own houses. Democratic government is committed in ensuring that the current property market is radically transformed in order to build inclusive, democratic, and integrated spaces in our cities. This budget vote, the Department of Human Settlement and Housing Development Agency will ensure that the well-located land will be released and be developed of the new integrated human settlement targeting the middle and low income earners. The Social Housing Regulatory Authority is going to build 3,000 social housing units in well-located land during this financial year. Strengthen the legislation to ensure compliance by the private sector in government to lead the transformation agenda. Honorable Chair, as the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement is conducting public hearings on the Housing Consumer Protection Bill, among the objectives of the bill is to provide the protection of housing consumers, the enrollment of homes in order to be covered by the Home Warranty Fund, to provide for the regulation of the conduct of home builders, to provide for the continuance of Home Warranty Fund, and to provide for claims against the fund. For too long, our people have been robbed of their hard-earned monies by scrupulous builders who masquerade as professional builders. Furthermore, the National Home Builders Registration Council will ensure by the end of the financial year, at least 2,920 home builders would have registered, that at least 13,910 registrations are renewed. The NHBRC has also set a target of 100% homes inspected for both non-subsidy and subsidy homes. Further, the NHRBC will ensure that 100% of prosecutable matters are considered within 10 working days when they are reported. That 100% are prosecutable matters are set down for a hearing before the disciplinary committee within 30 days. The state-owned entities must drive the job creation in the housing sector for economic recovery and reconstruction. In his State of the Nation address in February, President Ramaphosa reiterated the government commitment to economic recovery and reconstruction. We welcome the commitment made by various entities regarding job creation. The Social Housing Regulatory Authority has committed to create 6,646 jobs opportunities through its implementation of housing projects. And it further committed to ensure that 40% of its spend on procurement will be targeted to women, 20% go to the youth sector, and 5% goes to people with disability. 40% will be spent on procurement, will target women, and 40% will go to the youth sector, and 5% will go to the people living with disability. That's a delivering department, that's a delivering government led by the African National Congress. Honorable Chairperson, the Housing Development Agency during the course of this financial year will implement various projects such as delivering 3,428 of the housing units, provide 4,517 service sites, manage 73 human settlement projects, and the replacement of 1,000 asbestos roofs, which will create jobs opportunities to the South Africans, in particular, the people that were disadvantaged by the apartheid regime. Research indicates that persistence of our unemployed rate.
Try and wrap up, Honorable Member.
Among these is the fact that they possess the requisite skill as an experience. And the department is on a massive training for all, in particular young people, to be exposed to training and skills so that they can be employable. Councillor Nkofu, the chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Now I recognize Honorable Chapter.
Thank you. This budget vote coincides with the recent floods in KwaZulu-Natal. The floods which call to bear special integration housing infrastructure and access to social housing within the human settlement value chain. Indeed, Honorable Chair, human settlements cannot be unlocked through accessing, I quote, through accessing, releasing optimally suitable land, close quote, as former Minister of Human Settlement, Norman Jamfebe, once said. We need to tap into human settlement value chain. Human settlement priorities must be transformative, deal with housing backlog, and provide the tidy deed to our people. In terms of Constitution and the National Development Plan, the department has an obligation to give effect to the duty of the state to provide access to housing. This constitutional right must not be underpinned by a fiscal framework that promotes sustainable human settlement. Honorable Chair, this department has to foster intergovernmental coordination between human settlement government departments and provincial departments within regulated discipline of shared legislative and executive competence. The human settlement development grant allocated to these provincial departments must reach every single individual in the human settlement value chain. We therefore hope that this budget will transform existing spatial inequality in the country and foster spatial human settlement order. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Now I recognize Cope. Cope. Okay, we shall proceed, Honorable Members. I recognize PAC. PAC. Honorable Members, we shall proceed. I recognize Honorable Hendricks. Over to you, sir. Honorable Hendricks, are you here? Thank you very much. Now we shall proceed to Honorable Powell. Over to you, Honorable Powell.
Thanks, Chairperson. Every year at this time, members of this House are subjected to long lists of promises from incompetent and compromised ministers on what they intend to do. Yet so little action is paid to what they have done, because in reality, year after year, the ANC's achievements in government amount to so very little. Human settlements, one of the country's most crucial frontline service delivery departments, is no different. Chairperson, we engage in these lofty, high-level debates in Parliament that so few South Africans even bother paying attention to anymore, while the reality on the ground sees South Africa sinking into an ever-deepening abyss of poverty, malnutrition, and despair. Unless, of course, you're an ANC tenderpreneur with a housing contract and a pension for fast cars and Johnny Black, then you're in the fast lane. But for the 13 million South Africans still living in informality, the suffering continues. For everyone other than the ANC, the conditions in which our nation's poorest citizens live are simply impossible to ignore. Despite a triple junk-rated economy, a failed government staffed by incompetent cadres, and the systemic looting that now defines our state, the ANC continue to deny any involvement in the cause and effect of the dire conditions that affect our people. Let's use a recent example. Whilst the President stands before Parliament and promises the nation that rigorous systems will be put in place to guard against more looting of disaster relief funds, this time in KZN, the so-called RET business forums in eThekwini are already rubbing their hands in glee at the prospect of another R1 billion headed their way. R1 billion that will be divvied up between incompetent cadre contractors and spent on little other than Lamborghinis. Honourable members, this situation will abound for as long as the ANC remains in power. And despite the list of more promises for the upcoming year recited before this House today, the delivery targets promised during Human Settlements budget speeches in previous years have yet to be fulfilled. In the 2020-21 financial year, against a target of 23,000 title deeds, only 17,200 were delivered. 40,300 fully subsidized houses were delivered against a target of 85,800. 1,800 rental housing opportunities were delivered against a target of 6,000. 990 social housing opportunities against a target of 3,800. And only 3,060 FLISP opportunities against a target of over 6,600. Honourable members, what these figures really mean is that despite the pomp and ceremony of our ruling elite, less than half of the housing department targets were achieved on major metrics. Only 61 million of the 300 million rand transferred for rental housing relief was spent not because desperate South Africans did not need assistance during the COVID lockdown, but because the department took an entire year to finalize the disbursement policy. That's right, it took a department of thousands of staff a full year to write an emergency relief policy. So the funds weren't spent. The National Department has also instructed provinces to provide evidence of measures taken to downscale the delivery of units, encouraging provinces to move towards a site and service approach. Here in the Western Cape, this rapid land release approach is coupled with pre-approved building plans, bulk infrastructure, pattern books, and wet slabs. But in places like the Free State, unserviced land without any infrastructure in place is simply handed over to beneficiaries. Why? Because the ANC cadres don't care. The HDA, the subject of gross corruption and mismanagement, which has incurred in excess of 150 million rand in irregular expenditure in recent years, only registered 825 title deeds against a target of more than 7,000. Despite the millions lost to fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the ongoing investigations, and the big shot talk of our DG and DDGs about consequence management when hauled before Parliament, only one single official was disciplined and dismissed across the entire department, whilst a second individual spent over 700 days on suspension at a cost to the taxpayer of more than 3.4 million rand. And despite the 40 units resembling tin shacks handed over in Talana last year, the National Portfolio Committee is yet to receive the investigative report and make recommendations. Honourable members, no one must come before Parliament and talk about consequence management until we start to see people in orange jumpsuits. Thankfully, Chairperson, a silver lining has appeared in the form of a new minister that has so far been true to her word in her genuine attempts to rid the department of her predecessor's corrupt patronage network and right-size many of our most crucial entities. Time will tell if her fist is firm enough to stand up to the nefarious and dangerous characters that sit behind, not opposite her on the parliamentary benches. She confronts a lion's den of greed-obsessed cronies on the inside and empty stomachs on the outside. The knives will soon be out. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Now I recognize Honourable Malachi. Over to you, Honourable Malachi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. It is interesting to see the DA and its youth organization, the EFF, fighting that we must build more houses, which we agree on as the ANC, when not long ago, they are the same people that voted against distribution, where the state must be able to play that responsibility.
I'm calling an order.
Honourable Slope, may I check if your hand is up? Because on the system, I don't see your hand being up. Nevertheless, what is a point of order?
Chair, I don't think it's parliamentary to call EFF as the youth leader of the A. I think Malachi must withdraw.
No, there is no point of order. He mentioned the organization, not the individual.
No, he
mentioned Malachi, you may proceed.
Chairperson,
no, Honourable Mkhalipi.
No, Chair, you can't be saying that.
Honourable Mkhalipi.
Where in Parliament?
Honourable Mkhalipi.
Where youth leader?
Honourable Mkhalipi.
No, we must protect
Honourable Mkhalipi.
Withdraw. He must withdraw.
I am protecting you so that I am protecting you by making you understand the rules. He mentioned the political party, not the individual.
No,
Honourable Malachi, you may proceed.
The political party.
No, Honourable Mkhalipi. Honourable Mkhalipi, you know what to do. Please.
No such rule, Chairperson.
I will request it.
It's very easy to discipline such people. Just put her out of the system, Chairperson.
I'm just what I don't assist me. Don't assist me. Honourable Mkhalipi, I repeat. He mentioned the political party, not individual. In terms of the rules, there's nothing wrong with that. If you insist, I'll ask the IT people to support to eject you from the platform. Honourable Malachi, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Medical care and hospitalization shall be provided.
No.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think...
House Chair, can I call order on Member Mkhalipi?
Honourable Hope, you may, but I've made a ruling.
Not on that issue. On that issue.
Oh, let's see.
He is insisting that Member Malachi violated the rule, but just called Member Malachi with his first name, which is a violation of the NA rules. That's the issue I'm calling Member Mkhalipi on order on. He said Malachi must withdraw, and that's not allowed in the rules.
Honourable Mkhalipi, I was going to say differently. Can you then withdraw that? Because now we didn't.
I'm not withdrawing anything. You can kick me off. I don't care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Kindly take her out.
I don't care.
Malachi, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. It is very clear that, Chairperson, the project of the African National Congress of making sure that our people are settled, it has been delayed in many areas, mainly on the issue of land. And in many areas where the DA EFF-led municipalities, they sell the land that's supposed to be for human settlement. They sell it to private companies for they continue to maximize profit. But we are uncompromising and resolute as the African National Congress in our support for the budget vote for the Department of Human Settlement and its entities. We are convinced that the budget vote as presented by the minister will go a long way in addressing the house backlogs in our country. Honorable Chairperson, it is a known fact the African National Congress-led government has built more than 3 million houses for people who are displaced. The housing delivery program is one of the massive projects undertaken by our government. It is comparable and it is none. However, the recent floods in KZN and the Eastern Cape has demonstrated that much needs to be done in the provision of equivalent houses for our people. The national government has identified the upgrading of human settlement as a key component of its human settlement development approach. As per the revised medium-term strategy framework, the department has set a target of 1,500 informal settlement upgrade to the phase 3 informal settlement upgrade program. For this financial year, the department through the Housing Development Agency has planned to upgrade 200 informal settlement into phase 3. Ensure that no new informal settlement is built in riverbanks. Honorable Chairperson, the government and in particular the local sphere of government must put measures and mechanisms in place to ensure that no new informal settlements shall be built on the riverbanks. Local municipalities must work very closely with the housing development agencies in identifying the suitable land for human settlement development. Section 7 of the Housing Development Act of 2008 empowers the Housing Development Agency to identify, acquire, and hold and develop and release state and private and communal owned land for residential and community development, and to further assist organs of the state with upgrading of human settlement. For the current financial year, the Housing Development Agency will release 750 hectares of well-allocated land for human settlement development, and further, the Housing Development Agency will acquire 1,500 hectares of well-allocated land within the priority land for township establishment, and those opportunities are open to our municipalities. The specialist planning, development, and proximity to economic hubs. Honorable Chairperson, our government is directed by the National Development Plan 2030 that any new human settlement development must be taken in consideration of the de-racialization of the current apartheid special planning, and must ensure that those settlements are within the close proximity of economic hubs. For this financial year, the department and the HDA have identified at least 6 provinces to provide with programs to support the planning and implementation support for the revitalization of distressed mining communities. This is a new indicator for the state entities which will ensure that those communities living closer to the mining companies are provided accredited houses. Through the DTM, ensure that 100 expenditure of USISSP grant by provinces and municipalities. Honorable Chairperson, recently the minister, Dlamini Zuma, in her address to the state capacity conference, has clarified that the misconception about the district development model. There are people who think that the DTM project, the DTM is an unfunded project. She explained that DTM is not a project, but rather a government approach which the 3 spheres of government and the state entities work in unison to achieve service delivery. Many of our local municipalities have been struggling in spending the allocated grant funding, which results in the Department of Corporate and Government and Traditional Affairs revoking Section 18 of the Division of Revenue Act. Section 18 of the...
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Your time is up. I did give you injury time of 2 minutes. Thank you so much. Honorable members, now I recognize Honorable the Minister of Human Settlement. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the session. Honorable Soma. Firstly,
Honorable Minister, just sort out your volume.
Vote. And indeed,
Honorable Minister,
members who raised the issue around the need to review how we provide human settlements in a sustainable manner that is transparent and ensures accountability. We have committed to the digitization of the beneficiary list and will ensure that it is implemented. Let me agree with Honorable Semenya on the importance of establishment of the Human Settlement Development Bank, and also the need for efficiency in terms of application process for the Help Me Buy a Home subsidy to improve its performance through the ICT platform as committed in the APP. Honorable Khumalo, it is a dangerous thing to make if you are to generalize and use a blanket approach. I think to indicate that the entire sector is corrupt, is disingenuous, is as saying that all Liberal Party members are racist, because you would have categorized yourself within that. I have seen men and women in this portfolio who sacrificed even their holidays, working to ensure that we provide services to communities. So to generalize again and say that all people who are within this portfolio are lazy, are not committed, they work for themselves, I think it's not correct. It will help as you read APPs and read annual performance reports, but also look at some of the presentations we've done in the portfolio committee as you are a new member. And equally, let me remind you that equal
point of order, Chairperson,
fairness does not mean
Honorable Minister,
communities
Honorable Minister,
COVID-19 and wetlands in communities.
Honorable Minister, yes, 1 second. There's a point of order. Honorable member of point of order. Let's hear the point of order.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister is misleading the House, Honorable Chairperson, because my speech, even as typed, specifically
okay, just stop there.
Not
Honorable member, just stop there. Just stop right there.
Misleading the House.
That's a point. No, Honorable member, that's a point of debate. I thought we were going to make reference to the rules, or she has used unbecoming unparliamentary language, but you are now referring to your speech. That's a point of debate. That's not a point of order. Honorable Minister, you may proceed.
No, she's misleading, Chairperson.
No, I'll eject you. I've just made a ruling.
There's what we call rule books in Parliament. I know you are new. We do spend some time reading it so that we can know what we're doing in Parliament. Let me come to Honorable member who represent, I think it's Stefani. Mhlonishwa andiqale apha. Xa uzawuthetha uthi elites linking the ANC to the killing of abahlali basemjondolo leaders, it's really, really dangerous. Xa ungajonga, if ungajonga, umhlonishwa uSibiya has been having meetings. As we speak today, there is another meeting with abahlali basemjondolo trying to find solutions within KZN, supporting them. So I can confidently say, from the governing party, from the African National Congress, from us as leading this portfolio, we've committed to working with everybody. So I think uHotle Mtanasekhaya ungaphindi uyenze lento uyenzileyo ayifanelekanga ukuhlanganisa abantu nabantu ababulalayo gqugquzela amaphoyisa ukuthi atholele abantu babulala abantu abahlali basemijondolo, while sifuna ama-solutions azosincedisa ukuthi sisebenzisane nabo sikwazi ukuthi siba providing services as right. Let me also thank honorable members Buthelezi, Mishwe, Heron and Jafta. I think these members provided some of the suggestions that we are definitely looking at. There's been issues that are flagging honorable members. I think they're quite important for us to do. Yes, the concern around the MTSF targets. Because of the revision of budgets, we've had to revise the downwards our targets, and that's why honorable member is saying the targets are not ambitious enough. I'm not surprised by Freedom Front Plus when they target BEE, because to them, justice means that they must continue to benefit above the majority of South Africans. And I think every time we'll continue to teach them that transformation is a necessity for the sustainability of this country, but also for the democracy to be sustainable. We've got to ensure equal opportunities and also inclusive participation in the wealth of this country, as the Freedom Charter has said. There's quite a misunderstanding.
But not for corruption.
Right, across the country to constituencies. I've met over the weekend and this week people who did not understand the BE because you have been misleading them. For example, a white woman who didn't know that actually in terms of BE, they are above a black man, because you have continued to spread this misinformation that does not assist this country, does not show. I think at some point we need to have a proper conversation with Freedom Front to say, when are you going to start to be patriotic South Africans? The issue around the Prasa land, Honorable Mishwe, we are working with Minister Mbalula. We have identified the first land. HDA is working on it, the first parcel of land. We should be able to start relocating the community soon once the board has finalized the process, and that we do agree, including the issues around title deeds. Honorable Heron, indeed, the issue of security of time. I think the other issue that I want to speak to, it's even the issue, and it's linked to Honorable Powell. I'll come to the issues and Honorable Chapter. The issue of access to land that is closer to economic opportunities. Now, it's very critical because we've got to address the apartheid landscape, special landscape. So we can't continue where we put and build very far away from opportunities, recreational facilities for majority of South Africans. So that is important. Honorable Powell as well, I thought when you did your visit to eThekwini, you will come with better information. You seem to have interacted with wrong people who misled you. Let me start here. There's no money allocated to eThekwini. Currently, the programs that we are implementing has been with national and with the province in terms of reprioritization of funds. We have been engaging a city of eThekwini. We wanted them to reprioritize within their budget, which they told us that they do not have the necessary resources. So I don't know which 1 billion you've seen, you've heard, you've smelled in eThekwini, but we've not provided any 1 billion to eThekwini municipality. Unless you decided to sit with, I hear you saying there's RET. Maybe you must share the news who these RET people are that you had coffee with, that shared with you about them. And we didn't provide as the Department of Human Settlement. But again, you misrepresent the issues of land. You see, it had to take us to stop the city of Cape Town from selling 3 properties within the city of Cape Town, to say these properties are suitable for human settlement, and therefore had to request the mayor who had intention to sell these properties, to sell this land, to say it can't be done when majority of the people within the city of Cape Town do not have the land. And the issue of divide and rule doesn't work with me, Honorable Member. You are not going to pit me against my own comrades and my own colleagues. I stand here as the Minister of Human Settlement with the backing and full support of my caucus, with the backing and full support of my party. So the issue of, apartheid has taught us to say, they will always say that you're an exclusive black. I'm not an exclusive black. I don't take kind to it. I don't take pride into it. I'm a South African minister of the African National Congress who works within a collective that is supported by the entire collective. So what I do is what my party has sent me to do. What I implement is what my party has taken as a decision, including what we are working with as a collective in caucus. So I do not have daggers behind me. I do not look back when I walk because I'm not fearing that I do not have the support and the backing of my caucus, including the leadership of the African National Congress in its entirety. So when you see standing against corruption, when you see me standing firmly, it's because I'm a child of the ANC and this is what I've been taught. So what you see as just few people who get out, accept that we do have those, like all of us in all parties. We've seen Makotu Aronakwa Johannesburg, what he's doing. She's messing up. Do we say all of you are messing up? No. But we acknowledge our Makotu and now we're lahlile ko Johannesburg. That's why Remita Makotu iphitletse wa pota fela nje. So that's what we do. We don't isolate an individual and say, because we're now you should be, and feel the clap hands to say, no, they are saying I'm better than others. I'm not. I've been trained by the African National Congress. I'm the product of this movement. And what I do and act, it's what I've been told and taught by And this is what we'll continue to do. So the NC lives, the NC leads, and I'm thankful for who I am because that's where I
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
In spirit and in all I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, we are concluding the debate for the day of this visual mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Minister, you're moving.
Thank you, Chair.
Minister.